All right, everybody. So what I want to do is I want to talk to somebody who can give me a perspective about not just what's going on in the cryptoverse or digital asset space, but what's pretty much going on globally. I am kind of stuck here in the United States. Not stuck, but you know what I mean? I'm here in Puerto Rico, so it's good to hear other opinions about what's going on. So Gem, welcome back to the show for the second time.
Hey, Rob, thanks for having me again. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody, there'll be a link in the description for Gem's YouTube channel. Also over there on X, which hopefully this is the right account. I know you were recently hacked and it almost brought everybody down, including myself, because I was actually reached out to by the hackers, had to go through some type of like Google Meetup space. And before I figured out there was actually a hack. So I think this is the right one. Am I correct?
Yes, this is the right one. The followers number a little bit low compared to the original one, but yeah, I'm working my way up there.
Perfect. Fantastic. Well, I follow you, so hopefully get some more follows today. So let's talk about this. First of all, Hong Kong, which is where you're based out of right now. We were talking offline a little bit about adoption. And for me, I mean, I see about the Bitcoin store of value, the gold 2.0 narrative, and it works out pretty well, especially for ETFs, and looks like OGs selling and doing calls and puts, all that stuff. But as far as like for stable coins, for altcoins, for tokenization of assets, what are you seeing over in Hong Kong and the people that you interact with? Because for me, like, again, I'm just in this little bubble. So I'm just trying to get a little perspective.
One thing very fascinating about Hong Kong, even compared to Singapore, because like we are actively competing with Singapore. Like Singapore is kind of strong tech, like scam the crypto projects to the country and claiming it is very friendly. So all the crypto projects, like even including Token 2049, it started in Hong Kong, and then it moved to Singapore. So they kind of, so Singaporean government scam the crypto projects and saying that, okay, we're going to have a really friendly regulation. So please come to our country and we're going to serve you really well. So the way that I have seen, and especially recently or maybe in 2025, is that, okay, a bunch of Hong Kong talents went from Hong Kong to Singapore and then kind of experience how tight the regulation really is, and they're coming back to Hong Kong. Because like Hong Kong, we kind of need this to survive right now, because like the economy is not doing the best. Of course, like we are still one of the richest cities among the whole world, but like since that the GDP is slowing down, the growth is slowing down. So Hong Kong government is trying to think of new way. Because like back in 2021, Hong Kong government was so against crypto, saying that like it's a scam. But at the same time, OTC on the street in Hong Kong is everywhere. What I mean is that you can walk in with a pile of cash in the street of Hong Kong to buy some USDT. And this is like a really interesting dynamic, even back in the days when Hong Kong government claimed to be against crypto, and crypto is sort of like a gray area. And right now, fast forward to 2026, crypto is like the Hong Kong government needs crypto to survive and trying to turn Hong Kong into a crypto hub yet again. So that's why we are seeing a wave of talent from Singapore. We're trying to compete with Singapore. And right now, okay, back in the days, OTCs, like basically I could walk in with cash and purchase USDT. So what the government, Hong Kong government doing right now is that, okay, there's going to be some license require KYC, but it's still very lenient compared to Singapore. Like Singapore is so strict, it almost feels like it's stifling innovation. So that's why people are scared and trying to get out of the country.
Got it. That's a lot of things to break down, but let me ask you this, because you talked about the progress that's happening, and you talked about the R word, regulation. So what are you seeing over there? Because here we have the Clarity Act, which is supposed to go through hopefully in 2026. And hopefully that'll give us a little bit more of framework for how digital assets are spaced apart, who is responsible for what. And then to get more of the plumbing for the institutions in, do you guys have an issue right now with regulation, like you said, stifling, or are things opening up, and will things allow to be flourished, or is it just going to be a big bottleneck?
I would say Hong Kong is turning at 180. Back in 2021, Hong Kong, like how they trade crypto, is still a gray area. But right now, we are seeing Hong Kong government entities attending crypto event. Like they are going on stage to give speech to support Web3, to support crypto innovation. So I would say, yeah, I mean, Hong Kong is going all in because we have to make crypto and digital assets work.
Well, how does that work? Because I feel like there's a dichotomy, a split. I mean, not huge, but between Hong Kong and China. And it seems like they want one part and Hong Kong wants another part. Am I wrong in that assumption?
I wouldn't say it's wrong, but like what China is doing to Hong Kong, because like China, it is a massive country with a massive population. So China cannot afford with all these funky stuff, with all these innovation. Because like if they want to experiment, might as well use a smaller place, yet is still innovative and advanced enough. So Hong Kong become kind of the best test net for China to test out all these experimental stuff that China really want to see if it works. If it works, then maybe you're going to adopt in Shenzhen or Shanghai. I don't know.
Gotcha. So that would lead me to my next question. And we actually talked about this. Let's talk about Venezuela and what's happening. So you did a video yesterday, and it looks like there may be 600,000 Bitcoin that it looks like the Venezuelan government may have accumulated. Now, me personally, I don't think that these guys were financial wizards over there with what happened with their country. If they did have 600,000 Bitcoin, I would assume they would be like Germany and just sell it off a little bit too early, but I could be wrong. So what's your take on this one? I watched the video, it was pretty interesting, but let's talk about 600,000 Bitcoin over there, and then also how that relates to what's happening with the toppling of Venezuela and how that affects China moving forward.
Yeah, 600,000 BTC, that would make it more than US nation. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of the top 5 Bitcoin wallets ever. So I really don't know, because like people are saying that, okay, maybe selling oil and then getting BTC. So I really don't know. But like Venezuela is in really, it has a strategic partnership with China. So while people are saying that is, okay, US may be targeting Venezuela for its oil, or it's more like US versus Venezuela. From my own perspective, I think it's more, okay, this is my personal take. It's more like a US versus China at the end of the day. Because like, I'm not sure if you know about One Belt, One Road program initiated by China. So what this program does is like China's essentially came up with this program like a decade ago. I can't remember exactly when. So one thing about logistics, like shipping goods from one country to another, the West control most of the ocean. So if like, okay, maybe, okay, for transferring goods, they can still use aircraft, but like aircraft is so small. But for using ships, you can transfer a huge amount of that goods from one country to another, and the cost is going to be lower. So majority of our goods right now still being shipped by like using the ocean. But the problem is most of that straits around the whole world is still controlled by the US. So China feels like, okay, one day if they do something funny and being sanctioned by the US, then they're going to run into this risk. So China came up with this One Belt, One Road idea. They were building this railroad across different countries around the whole world. And Venezuela is one of the countries that joined this program and is one of the biggest strategic partner with China. So how China has been using this program is that, okay, China would just like go into the country and say, okay, especially in developing nations. So they will say, okay, since the infrastructure is not doing so good in your country, how about I lend you some money? So I helped you build some infrastructure, you repay me. And for Venezuela, the case is different because like Venezuela has the richest oil reserve among the whole world. So
Right.
China is saying to Venezuela that, okay, if you can't pay me money, like, okay, let's pay oil instead. So the reason why China has such low energy costs, especially compared to the US, is that like one of the oil import country is Venezuela. So that is the strategic partnership. China imports its oil from Russia, from Iran, Venezuela. So now one of the countries is gone. So I would say this is more a strategic play by Donald Trump. Like if I were American, I would die to have a president like Donald Trump because like he's an extremely smart businessman. He literally killed three birds with one stone. Like first of all, he managed to scoop up all the oil, so managed to keep the oil price because like okay, we don't know the situation between US and Iran. Like if it escalate, then the US will control all the oil supply in the whole world. And if it does, like right now, US is getting close because like they control Venezuela right now, like by now. Okay. So if they do for Iran, then it's a huge slap for China. So this is one of the reasons. So if Donald Trump managed to keep the oil price low, that means energy price is going to come crashing. So that means more energy for AI training. Because like last show, we talked about the energy consumption in the US. Like even Microsoft, they have all the chips laying around or the GPU, but they don't have enough energy. But like Donald Trump just like solved that problem like that within a few hours. So energy costs gonna crash, and AI gonna boom in the US. And at the same time, if oil price comes down, that means inflation gonna come down. So there's more reason to justify for that rate cut. So this is just the economic side of why Donald Trump did what he do. And second reason is China. So China actually invested more than 60 billion US dollars into Venezuela. So once US control Venezuela, all the investment is gone like that. So China cannot collect that debt anymore from Venezuela. So that is like, I think he's really, really smart. I have to give him that at the very least. Sorry, I've been talking so much because I have so much to share about this.
That is a great take. And you know what? I share your sentiment on some of those things. Now, of course, people in the comment section will, whether they hate him or love him, we're going to hear it in the comments. That's just pretty much how it is. But I agree with a lot of what you just said, for sure. Let's finish this up. Actually, if you want to embellish anything about what you just said, please do. But if you'd like to talk about this last question, which is electricity, because everything that has to go, and you just talked about how reducing the overall cost of what just happened there, especially with oil production, we know electricity is going to be needed massively. And it's not just for, Bitcoin mining, when actually, Bitcoin mining actually helps out electricity production, because as there's an overabundance of energy, Bitcoin miners come in and say, hey, we'll buy that. And then when they want to actually reduce it, our electrical companies say, hey, we need to shut you guys down for a little bit because we need more for the citizens. And that's what happens. That's actually a pretty good thing for Bitcoin mining and electrical productions. But as far as like for AI moving forward, we just took a look at what the requirements are from ChatGPT. What does that mean for you guys there in Hong Kong and China if you just eliminate that part? Is there things going on as far as like with alternative productions, as far as like with electricity? Are we talking about solar panels, wind, and so on and so forth? And then, of course, embellish and anything else you want to talk about with what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, renewable energy in China is a big thing, but like Okay, if we look at Venezuela, China imports around 5% of oil from Venezuela.
Okay.
And then the rest, okay, maybe China and Russia, it could be a friends forever. I don't know. I don't know the deal because like I'm not a politician. But like I would say, okay, that's the energy part. And as for Chinese economy, it is really like it struggled for quite a few years.
Right.
Like I'm sure you know about the deflation situation in China. It's like one of the few countries that are actually experiencing deflation, and the West is experiencing inflation instead. Like the reason why is that the competition in China is really keen. So all the companies are trying to compete with price, and they okay, if company A is selling at $100, okay, I'm gonna do $95 to attract customers. So all these is driving the cost down, and that's why it's adding so much pressure to the Chinese economy. And Donald Trump knows this, like knows the real estate, the housing market in China is not doing the best, and GDP is slowing down. And China, it used to be like, okay, a decade ago, is the massive country because it's producing all the goods to all the countries, like everything is made in China. So the thing is, they collected so much USD because when you transact with another countries, you're actually collecting USD instead of other type of currency. So all these years, China has been stacking up all that USD, but instead of dumping USD and buy renminbi, like the Chinese currency, they don't want to do that because like if they purchase renminbi, that means renminbi would go up, and the countries wouldn't want to transact with China because like Chinese goods just got more expensive, right? So what they did before, when Chinese, like the China and US situation wasn't so tense a decade ago, they would purchase American government bonds. But since that, the situation got so worse, especially in recent years, they rather chose to purchase gold, or maybe go to developing countries and say, okay, join the program. I'm going to invest billions in your country. So in return, let me build the railroad so I could transfer the goods. But what happened is that the China's local economy is not doing great. And then they can't afford to finish the whole construction of this railway. So, and not only this, developing countries, they can't repay the debt. So that's why it's kind of a leverage system right now. So that's why the whole Chinese economy is not doing so well. And Donald Trump see this as an opportunity to basically see a bubble and just like pop the bubble, because since it's getting so big already. But like, is there coming out for China? I would say like there's always opportunity, because like if we look at Japan, Japan has been bombed multiple times, and there's like natural disasters every once in a while, like almost every single month. So like, yeah, Japan is one of the strongest nations with the strongest GDP. So yeah, I don't know, like even Russia, it has been sanctioned for years right now. Like if you look at the Russian economy, it's not like crashing. So yeah, it's very hard to say. If you ask me, like if we zoom close to every single country around the whole world, every single country has an issue. So you could argue is at the end of the day, the world economy is quite fragile. It depends how you view.
No, I agree. I mean, it is very fragile, and there's a reason why we do what we do. So, Jim, thank you for all the information. That is great. I don't get this anywhere else except from you, because you got a great insight. So I appreciate it. I guess the last, after talking about all those things, what is some of your investments that you're getting into to help offset this instability? Because you talked about the global markets, the global economies, how they're floundering, and the fragility that is going on just universally. So what are you doing to protect yourself and especially your investments?
Yeah, I would say risk management is really important. So far, if you ask me, it looks like still US economy is the strongest. So it makes sense to invest a little bit in US stocks, actually, in the stock market.
Yeah.
And gold, and of course Bitcoin. Like all these are long-term investments. So think 5 years. I'm not talking about next month, but like in the short term, I'm still de-risking and managing my risk very cautiously, because like we've talked about this. We have done a show like a month ago talking about the 4-year cycle, and looks like, I mean, it's very controversial. Like people happen to think it's not intact, but like the cycle talk did happen on exactly 6th of October. So I don't know, but like one thing, like since October, that has been working pretty well on my behalf, and combining with TA is shorting altcoins. So I know like for the past few days, altcoins are doing pretty well. But like overall, if we zoom out and just looking at the general pattern, general 4-year cycle, altcoins are still bleeding quite a lot. So it like sometimes, and I go to CoinGecko, I look at altcoins, and it doesn't have to be extremely small altcoins. It could be like top 50 altcoins, or let's say Polkadot. Like if you were shorting Polkadot, then you could be doing pretty well, right? Like maybe since October, and Polkadot is like for some reason is still accepted by most of the exchanges, centralized exchanges around the world, and yeah, you can still short Polkadot. So I don't know. Like sometimes I look at opportunities like that. It's like why people aren't doing these trades. I don't know.
I don't know, but I can tell you like this. If you're trying to manage risk, I think it would have been pretty good just to stick mostly with, like you said, Bitcoin, a little gold, I think would have been just fine. And of course, stocks, especially if we're talking about the S&P 500, the Mag 7. So Gemmy, that was a lot of stuff to go over, and I don't want to take too much of your time. So everybody, there is a link in the description where you can find Gem's channel over on YouTube and also on X. And then as things progress, we'll have to have you back on and give us some insight about what's happening. So Gem, thanks for stopping by again.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Great to be here.